Hello, I'm Tim Thompson. I work at the Port of Bremerton, and I'm also the chair of the Kitsap Economic Development Alliance Clean Tech Working Group, the Vision 2020 Action Plan. Today I'll be discussing a few issues with Greg Belding, a licensed architect with Rice Fergus Miller here in Bremerton and member of the Clean Tech Working Group. What we're going to talk about today is sustainable building design in construction, which is a large part of the clean tech industry because it results in energy efficient buildings and a conservation of our natural resources. How you doing, Greg?
I'm doing well, thank you.
Thanks for being with us today. Greg, when we hear about sustainable building design, we hear the term LEED. Can you explain what the acronym LEED stands for and why it's important?
LEED stands for Leadership in Environmental and Energy.
And that's always hard for me to remember it.
Yeah, it stands for Leadership in Energy and Environmental Design. It is a program put together by the U.S. Green Building Council, and it's basically a measurement tool for measuring the level of sustainability of a building. And it measures buildings on 5 criteria. So it looks at what they call sustainable sites, and that's looking at where a building is placed, whether or not it takes up green space, and how you deal with stormwater, things like that. It looks at water efficiency. So it's concerned with how much water does a building use in its toilets, showers, water faucets, how you landscape and irrigate your landscaping, that kind of thing. It looks at energy and atmosphere, and that is specifically looking at how energy efficient is your building and what kind of impact does your building have on the atmosphere in terms of its emissions, both in terms of greenhouse gas emissions and emissions that might affect the ozone. It looks at materials and resources. That's concerned with recycled content of materials, where your materials come from. Are you shipping them from Europe, from China, or are they coming from Tacoma? It looks at whether or not those materials are renewable. Are they made out of things that can be recycled? Are they made out of things that can be grown quickly? Or are they made out of things like petroleum products, which, of course, most of which cannot be recycled. Mm-hmm. And lastly, it looks at indoor environmental quality, daylight, general comfort, the quality of the air, whether or not materials are off-gassing and causing sickness in people that work in the space.
Well, it seems like an obvious question, but I got to ask, why does this matter?
Well, buildings are the single largest category of users of energy and emitters of CO2 carbon gases. We're right now trying to figure out how we can impact our thirst for foreign oil, foreign energy, and how we can cut greenhouse gas emissions. If we're looking at just doing it through cars or just doing it through our industry, we're never going to get there. We have to be looking at buildings. And a couple of months ago, I would have said, that's really the main reason why it's important. But was it a month or 2 or 3 ago, our administration at the federal level talked about the importance of energy independence, and they talked about increasing our nuclear power, increasing clean coal technology, increasing offshore oil drilling. And what's happened since then? We've had 29 miners killed in West Virginia, 11 workers killed on an oil rig in the Gulf, an oil spill that is threatening to be larger than the Valdez spill. I think the last I heard, it was 200,000 gallons a day.
This is the one in the Gulf of Mexico,
yeah.
Right?
And, we've seen what happened at 3 Mile Island 20 or 30 years ago. And we've also been experiencing for at least that long the costs of nuclear cleanup at Hanford. So we can't afford not to be doing or not to be thinking about our buildings and their impact on our energy resources. And I think that's just a very graphic description of just the one resource, which is energy, which is extremely important. And we're going to be seeing that in water in the next 10 or 20 years, and it's going to, as our population increases and our density increases and a number of buildings increase, we're going to be taxing all of our resources in a way that we really can't afford not to be thinking about it now.
Well, you certainly build a very compelling case as to why sustainable buildings are important in the clean tech industry. No questions about that in my mind. Back to the actual design and construction of the buildings, though, I hear that they cost more if you build sustainability into your design. Is that true?
I think right off the top of my cuff, I would say no, it's not. And I would point to a building that's right across campus here at OC. Just opened on Wednesday, the new Humanities building. It was built to a LEED Gold standard. It's awaiting its final certification, but at this point, it looks like it will be achieving a gold standard. That is almost as high as you can go in the LEED criteria. It's a building that was built within budget. It's a building that, if it were built without taking LEED into consideration, I don't think it would have cost more at all. There are certainly some costs that are specific to LEED. You do have to manage your paperwork, and that's something that's new. And you do have to go through a few extra steps during the construction process to verify that your building is meeting the standard. But on a building like the Humanities building across campus here, we're really looking at 1% of the construction cost at most. Mm-hmm. On some smaller buildings, it might be more. If you want to go off-grid and have a building that is generating all of its own electricity, providing all of its own water through rainwater collection, and taking care of all of its waste with on-site sewage treatment and all this kind of stuff, yeah, you're going to be talking about a building that's much more expensive today. But to reach a point where you're achieving 20 or 30 or even 40% energy savings in your building, as long as you're making the right decisions early on, you're not really going to be incurring additional cost in your building, not significantly anyway.
And we have local contractors right here in Kitsap that can build buildings that are LEED designed, don't we?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Kitsap County is, of course, a growing county with a growing construction economy, mm-hmm. And our local contractors have been really going out of their way to gain LEED accreditation and to figure out what they need to do this kind of construction, and they're currently involved in it as well.
And I don't mind asking the question, how does Rice, Fergus, Milner fit into this type of scenario in these designs?
Well, the idea of sustainable or green building is one that we have embraced. We use sustainable design practices in every project that we design. We encourage our clients to seek LEED certification where it's possible and where it makes sense. We're doing a building right now for our own office. It's a new 22,000 square foot building. It's an old building, but new to us, that we're remodeling in downtown Bremerton. It will be built to LEED Platinum standard. And one of the things that's very important to us is that we involve our local trades in it to help build that knowledge base. We're using Tim Ryan Construction to build that. We're also working hard to educate our own staff. We currently have 17 LEED accredited professionals in our office. That is almost half of our office. In fact, I think it's exactly half of our office today. That might change tomorrow.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, it's great to know that kind of talent and that type of expertise is right here in downtown Bremerton in the heart of Kitsap. I want to thank you for your time today, Greg, and for and your willingness to volunteer in our working group. You've been a great addition, and I know we used you in a seminar last year to go into more detail about LEED certification and sustainability, and I appreciate that. This concludes the final segment of the Clean Technology Initiatives segments that we wanted to bring to the community to help explain the work that the working group is doing in support of the Kitsap Vision 2020 action plan relating to clean technology. As a quick summary, you heard initially from Dr. Mitchell, the president of Olympic College, who shared with you his insight as to why this technology and this industry is so important and where Olympic College fits in the lead position they've taken in this community. You also heard from Miss Julia Zander from Watson Furniture, and she explained how that particular business in Paulsbo has incorporated sustainability and clean technology into its product lines. You heard from Councilman Roy Runyon from the City of Bremerton, who gave his great presentation on the wonderful things the City of Bremerton is doing with their energy plan. And you also heard an interview from Kitsap Economic Development Alliance Director of Business Development, Kathy Kokas, who interviewed In the Works, a local startup company who is about to, which is about to commercialize in their state-of-the-art low-emission marine engine exhaust systems that we hope will be a success story here right in our backyard. And lastly, we just heard this great interview with Greg Belding from Royce Fergus Miller on sustainability. I want to summarize in closing the three most important objectives of the Clean Technology Action Plan. And that is first to recruit and expand those clean tech businesses that are we want to bring to Kitsap County that are already here, that we'd like to have grow, find out what their impediments are, and make sure that they have what they need to be able to expand into this emerging industry here in Kitsap. We want to also focus on workforce development so that we have the skills and the trades that can rise to the occasion as these clean technology industry grows in this particular area. And last, we want to better educate the local community as to the benefits of clean technology, of which this particular presentation and all of these segments is suited for, and we hope that you learned quite a bit from them and that now you have a better understanding of clean technology in Kitsap. Thank you very much for your time.